So welcome to this short video that I'm calling the length-tension relationship in the sarcomere. And up until now, we've been talking about the events of muscle contraction. We talked about sliding filaments, we talked about electrical signals and chemical signals, action potentials, and we've talked about excitation-contraction coupling. From here, we're going to move on to talk about contracting muscles as whole muscles. So before we kind of get there, the very last thing that I want to talk about on a cellular or subcellular level is going to be this relationship in the sarcomere. All right. So if we go to the learning objectives here, we're kind of incorporating our steps in the sliding filament theory. And this is really talking about why the interaction between the thick and the thin filaments is important in muscle contraction. Saladin discusses this on page 411, and the figure that you are going to find pretty pertinent is at the bottom of the page. It's actually a figure 11.12. All right, so I have a figure here. It's not exactly like Saladin's, but it's pretty similar. And I want to start by orienting you to this graph. On the x-axis, we've got the resting sarcomere length. So remember, the sarcomere is the functional unit of the myofibril. That's the thing that's doing the contracting. And so we've got the resting sarcomere length here, and this author is expressing this as a percentage of the optimum length. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. Saladin's figure actually gives you on the x-axis, he gives you an absolute value. So his axis is going to look like, 1, 2, 3, 4 micrometers in length. But how it's expressed really is not that important. The relationship is still going to be the same. On the y-axis here, we have the tension that's developed. And this author also is talking about this as the percent of maximum tension that can be developed. Okay, so what we are looking at here then is the relationship between the length of the sarcomere and how much tension that you can develop. And so I want to ask you, what is the relationship between the length and the tension? And just quickly, if we pay attention here, we should be able to see that as the length, and this is still at rest, increases up to a point, we see that the tension that develops also will increase. And because this is being expressed as a percentage, obviously we're going to get to a maximum of 100%. You can't have more than 100% tension that's developed in our muscle over here. Okay, so as the length increases, the tension increases up to a maximum. But then what we see is something that's kind of interesting. If we continue to increase the length of the sarcomere, we see that the tension decreases instead of continuing to increase. Why is this? So the author has actually given you a hint, and Saladin has also, because he's actually drawn you some pictures of the sarcomeres here. It kind of, what's happening here at each of these. So I've posted this question actually in the discussion board, and I want you to think about this, and I want you to go ahead and post in the discussion board why you think the tension increases and then decreases as the length of the sarcomere increases. Now, I will go on to tell you that this relationship explains muscle tone. And we can think of muscle tone as being the continuous baseline sort of level of muscle contraction that's maintained by the body or maintained by the muscles at rest. Muscle tone, this partial baseline level of muscle contraction, keeps the sarcomeres nearly at the optimum level of stretch so that they can contract quickly and efficiently when they're needed to produce a movement. All right, so what's next? See the thread in the discussion board, and then again, I've put several questions for you in Top Hat in review mode, so you can look at them as often, you can answer them as often as you want. All right, and now from here, we're actually going to move up 2 whole muscles. We're going to talk about energy and ATP production. So thanks so much for your attention. I'll be looking for your responses.